long years of research. Yeah? And especially intelligence tests are designed in a way that you can really tell from the overall test score how good you are. So, just a question to you. If you have intelligence, IQ, Intelligenzquotient of 115, is that good or bad? Not very good? 115. Oh, what do you have?
Higher.
Higher. Wow. Oh.
But I suppose it's more or less average. Because 70 would be retarded as far as I know. So
70 is retarded?
I think so. I think I read it somewhere, but I don't check.
It's okay. What is average? Well, that's... Yeah?
90 to 100.
Yeah. If you measure the intelligence of all people, the average would be 100. Intelligence tests, the classical one, are designed in a way that the average score is 100. Like you can see on this picture here. So you see here a normal curve. So if we test all the people in the world, at least a random sample, you will find this curve. Average will be 100. This is how tests are designed. Yeah. So you all know what a mean is on average.
Yeah.
So what is a standard deviation? Oh my God, statistics. What is a standard deviation? If you think about standard deviation, you remember your statistic course, right? And you remember that.
QBA.
Oh, QBA. Standard deviation. That's the weighted average difference between the mean and the actual value divided. Oh my God. No, it's very, very simple standard deviation. Don't forget about the formula. In this particular case, the standard deviation is 15. This is how tests are designed in that case. 15. Oh, what does that mean? Very simple, as a rule of thumb. If you take if you look at a range from mean 100 minus 15, 85, to plus 15, the mean plus one standard deviation, you have a range from 85 to 115. And within this range, you find 2/3 of the population, right? That's the meaning of standard deviation. The standard deviation tells you how the different measures are spread across the mean, right? If they spread it very broadly, then standard deviation is high. If they are very narrow, close to the mean, the standard deviation is rather low, right? Okay? If you do a student's party, the standard deviation of the age is low. If you do a marriage, the standard deviation of the age is big, because there are children, the grandma, grandpa. Okay. So, this is how tests are designed. So I want you really to take home that intelligence tests, once you hear that somebody has intelligence of, let's say, 115, you can easily tell that how many people are better than 115? Huh? 1, 6. Yeah? Okay? 16 point something %. Okay? So that means 115 is quite good. Yeah. Let me add one type of test which is not so commonly used, but you should have heard about this, because they exist and they are very important also in the psychological sphere. projective tests. They're kind of powerful, but you really need to be a professional to use this. There is a long tradition in psychology about how to measure motivation. How can you measure motivation? Yeah? And think about this. We believe that motivation is there, and people differ with regards to their motivation. But can you measure this? I can measure abilities because I just give people a task. I can measure personality, I just ask questions. But about motivation, and the most dominant method to measure motivation and what is important to a person is done by these projective tests. So, this is an example, a so-called thematic apperception test. TAT. When you do this test, you're shown some pictures like this. Very different pictures on cards. Look at this picture. And now your task is, please tell the story around this picture. Spontaneously. Right? And if you tell a story about this picture, really spontaneously, and you are all able to do this, the question is, what comes up in your story? Yeah? So, is this picture about a conflict? Is this about friendship? Is this picture about power? Is it about family? Is the one the boss and the other the employee? Yeah? Or vice versa? Is this the father and the son? Is this the father, the son, and the father-in-law? What is this picture all about? And the idea is that what is important to you, your way of how you perceive the world is projected into this picture. And the funny thing is, really, if you show people very different pictures, really totally different picture, and by the way, the last picture of this test is an empty card. There's nothing on it, and you have to tell a story. Yeah? If you do this, you will find out that all the different stories you tell, all the 10 stories, they all have something in common. Yeah. Well, I did this by myself with a psychologist. I was really amazed about the result. All my stories were traumatic. They started slowly, became very traumatic, very positive, and they all ended up with a nightmare. I don't know why. I learned this. I don't know what this tells me. But, it was interesting to see that, really, there is a kind of red line in every story. Yeah. The right one is ink pattern test, Rorschach test. It's just ink pattern. The question again is, what do you see in this picture? And this is more from psychoanalytics. Yeah, so it's rather weird, but it's a projective test. The idea is, is this a demon or what is that? So you inspire people to talk about what they see and what comes to your mind, and from what they tell, you draw a conclusion about their personality. Again, this is not so heavily used in practice, but you should have seen these, because when we talk about tests, these are quite relevant. So let me